Check, 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 check. Alrighty, everything checks out. I know I've got audio this time, and just like what the title says, I'm making this video. I'm going to post it to my YouTube channel for later viewers to check it out. But this little pile of parts here behind me is a cheap purchase I made off a marketplace, mostly just for something to do. And I've been looking for an extra case and a few oddball parts just to build a new computer of some kind or another. So this will be for everybody to check it out, look at it later, and for me to explore and learn and find out what I got that I have no idea, no clue what's in here, other than a couple loose graphics cards. There's a motherboard, there's RAM, I assume there's a CPU, there's a case, a keyboard. Anyway, I literally brought it in from the car, dropped it off right here, and stacked it and got this live ready to rock and roll. So you're going to go on the adventure with me, and I'm going to take you through a step at a time. First of all, let's see what we got. All right. So anytime you're just joining in, feel free to throw a message in there. Let me know you're here. And then if you watch this video later, please like and share. This is more for me. It's a hobby. It's something I like to do. I've seen other people do these kind of things on web before, online, and they can do it. I can do it. And I just want to do it for fun. So I don't expect a whole lot of views. I don't expect a lot of feedback. I'm not looking for anything to make money on. It's just for fun. I love PCs. I love people. And if you're subscribed to my channel, the few that are people that I've known for a long time. And my YouTube channel has been here for a while. And I've tried to make fun videos to share with everyone. So let's see what we got. Obviously, we got a fairly large case. I see Cooler Master right here. I didn't even know that before. So that's awesome. There's some kind of LCD screen on the front. That's a bonus. Let me turn around. Let me see. I think I've got some stuff sticking out the bottom. So yeah, definitely some kind of screen. A couple USB ports. There is a older Type 1 USB port that is back in the day. So I'm not taking for granted that this is a new machine. This says Inturion. Never heard of it. Case is a little rough and a little dirty, but I mean, I can wipe it down and clean it up. It's not going to be a super gaming computer or anything like that. So first of all, we do see we got an old, I assume RGB colored fan and light on the side case. I got something sticking out, so it's moving around. So just take this panel off. Pretty dirty, but scratched up, but hey, it can be fixed. We'll get that out of the way for now. I think I've got a pretty good one. Here's the other side panel. No major dents. That can be cleaned up. Pretty handy with a spray can if you know what it means. Touch it up or maybe even make another color. Obviously, got one of these older cases, got multiple places to put quickly removable ports. And that's always fun. Let's see if I can get, there's a little bit better angle. We don't need to see my feet. Right here on the top, we've got what appears to be a dusty Red Dragon, non-mechanical, kind of squishy USB keyboard. That'll clean up real nice, and if it works, that's just one more keyboard to the pile. All right, and I got really excited when I saw this graphics card. This one was in the picture on the ad, so I knew it was in there, but this is a GTX 750 Ti. He told me it was really old, but he said as far as he knows, it still works. Any graphics card that'll even put out 720 is great for a desktop machine for the most part. Maybe not necessarily for gaming or that kind of thing, but it's very possible I could make some upgrades and see what we go for there. So there's that. And then when I got there, I didn't realize this was part of it. But anytime I see a bigger graphics card, I get pretty excited. And this one, HD 6970, I'm sure this is 10 years old. But if it works, it does have an HDMI output, 2 display ports. Oh, I'm sorry, not display ports, but HD SDI. Is that what I'm saying? the big long ones with the SD. Anyway, you guys know what these are. Let me show you. I can work with the HDMI, so that's forgot what that was called, but at least that's something cool if it works. All right, so here's the power supply, and I knew that this is supposed to be new. He showed me the box. I don't know if he threw the box in the back of the car when I pulled up and grabbed everything or not, but I don't really need the box anyway. But it's clean, doesn't have any scratches on it at all. It appears to be somewhat in there, but I think for the purposes of really kind of getting an idea of knowing what I've got, I'm just going to completely disassemble and work my way back up. So for that part, let me get you a little closer here. Pardon my rudimentary tripod system, but it'll get there where it is at. All right. So now, here's a mouse, and that is an ONN mouse. Still got some plastic on it. I just peeled it. That's cool. It's a DPI and a brightness. So it's an RGB mouse. That's pretty cool. Laser mouse, USB. I know those aren't terribly expensive, but an extra mouse is an extra mouse. There was a couple of tri-AC cords that came with it before, so that's good to know. And I apologize for the camera angle. Next time I'll do a little better. So, and everything I do know about computers, and he mentioned to me that he had problems getting it to power up. And I was like, okay, so that tells me it's a power supply. He replaced the power supply. Well, if it's a new power supply, so we can assume that that's probably okay. Another thing that keeps the computer from being able to power up is the CPU battery. It will keep it from doing a lot of things, and sometimes won't even boot up or post or anything. So if he was having trouble there, the CPU battery might be an issue. We do have two really nice looking RAM sticks in here. Looks like we got G-Skill Riptals. Nice red color. And these are 16 gigabytes. 16 gigabytes. So there's, and this is, no, 8 gigabytes times 2. So this is a 16 gigabyte package. And it is, trying to tell if it's DDR3 or DDR4. DDR3. Okay, so that kind of makes it dated as an older system. But still, these are 16 gigabytes of DDR3 is really awesome if we're going to build a system that we're not intentionally wishing to build a gaming system out of. So not complaining there. I kind of thought and assumed that it would be a DDR3 system. And I'm pretty sure that this is an Intel chip on a board. Let me see if I can get any information here to tell you what it is. All right, so I'll get you a little closer. I'm trying to share the space with you. So this is an MSI board, and that's kind of nice in the sense that it's not necessarily just a generic Dell or Latitude or something like that. So MSI board, and looks like it's a 7060 GMA P34 FX. Cool. It does have SATA cables. I like to see SATA cables. Very small CPU sink here. And fan. So I'm going to guess that this is Intel chip. Probably not a very fast or big one. I'm not concerned about that right now. First thing I'm going to do here, though, is take these power supplies out from the power supply, or all the plugs from the power supply. And because I think this is new, I think he just threw it in there to try to test it. And I'm going to get it out of the way for the moment so that we can kind of identify what else we have here. So this is a simple matter of unplugging. Pardon me if I block your view. We'll talk about this in just a moment. Various SATA cords, power. All right. So I'm going to assume that the power supply is going to be good, being that it's new. I know his resolution for this process was just to completely buy a new system, and I applaud that because this was time for this to be replaced. At the very least, I've got a new case. I've got both sides to it and some fans, and I can put any motherboard in here to make almost anything. So I'll take these two SATA cables out. Now, one thing I'd like to talk to you about this for a moment. One thing you don't usually get when you buy a used computer from the internet is a hard drive. And this is a very clean Western Digital 500 gigabyte disk drive, hard drive. And do keep in mind, if this system was ever working and it was using this hard drive, there's going to be sensitive information on there. Use your best judgment. And if you do decide to use these hard drives, make sure you clear that information off. Do a complete delete, or even, if you do sell something online, keep your hard drives. It's always safe to keep your hard drives. I didn't expect this to have a hard drive with it, and that's perfectly okay that it does. I would certainly never take advantage of anything that would be on here. I'll try to boot it up and see if it's got an operating system on it just for the sake of testing purposes. But more than likely, I'll completely wipe this drive, format it, put a brand new version of Windows of some kind on it, probably Windows 10. So that's just, it's a bonus. It's an extra perk, but I'm not going to take advantage of or need that for the most part. So other things, basic case with all the buttons and bells and whistles. Like I said, we'll turn that around here in just a minute, but there is a DVD, DVR rewrite disc, which is okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't used one of those in a while, but it's there. So it's kind of cool that it's available. So there's a lot of dust in here, and there's another compartment. That compartment might come out. I'll get that all cleaned up. It'll be kind of fun. I'm not going to pull the CPU out to just get a look at it, but let's take a look what we got here. So we got USB 3. That's a good thing. We got a DVI port. We don't have an HDMI output on the graphics card itself, but with the two 3.0 USBs, that's a good thing. We do have onboard Ethernet. Don't see anything for wireless. I'm kind of interested in this case, though. I'm excited to get this up and going. And for the most part here, oh, it's a Centurion. That's what it says right there. And then I got the, oh gosh, sorry. This is some kind of display window here. So I'll be happy to get that running with anything in it just to see what that does. DVD rewrite, CD-ROM drive. Like I said, old style USB and then standard USB. Looks like this one might be a little bit damaged. That's not a tremendous concern. I hardly ever use the front USB ports anyway. Other than that, typical debris and dust and whatnot. And in fact, I've got a vacuum cleaner within reach, but I'm not going to run you through that right away. So kind of having an idea what we got here. If I wanted to make a computer for a young person or somebody that wanted to be able to play some basic games on, this would be a good opportunity. But I'm really going to probably individually see what works and what doesn't. But one thing I do know that can be an issue with a motherboard that won't work, I'm assuming this is pretty old, is I think that CPU battery may be dead. So if you've never tested one of those, all you got to do is, if you have a multimeter, that's an easy way to do it. A little pointy spatula here, and there's a little clip right here. Just kind of press that, and that battery should pop right out, and it's away. So every one of these little button cell batteries like this is a 3-volt battery. So if you have at your disposal any type of multimeter that reads voltage, that would be a perfect thing. If you have a 3-volt LED light you could use, That would also be a way to know if that battery's got any charge. But so often when these batteries die, they cause problems with the motherboard, with booting up and everything. So I'm going to put this on direct voltage, DC current. And I'm just going to check this battery and see what I get. All right, so I'm reading 2.9 voltage, which is right on board with what it should be. So this is a good battery. That is not going to cause us any problems with getting this system to boot. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. On these, it's one side that holds it in and the other side that snaps. That was pretty easy. Just going to kind of basically look over the circuit board here. I don't see anything that raises a tremendous alarm other than a little dust. I could look up the specs on this board, but I'll probably do that later. Unlock CPU core. Interesting. All right, so it still looks like all the front panel buttons and everything are still plugged in. I'll probably just leave those for the time being. I've got power, a Molex power. That's probably for that screen up on the top. I don't need to do anything with that right now. So also, one thing I don't have is all the buttons, all the screws that holds this together, but fortunately I have plenty of screws I've collected over the period of time. And I'm just looking, all these cords running through here are a little bit concerned. Let me make sure we've got room for the power supply. So now that this is completely out of the way, pardon me. So this is vented on the bottom, but it's got a lot more fans. There's two here, and I know there's one on the case. So I'm going to take the power supply. I'm going to use its vent fan to go into the case, that right side up. And just for the sake of making it a little bit easier to use, I'm going to go ahead and mount this power supply so that it is not all shaking around and causing a lot of problems. It is kind of cool. It's a 500 watt thermal tank, which I'm very happy with thermal tank. I've had lots of thermal tank power supplies before, and I've never been disappointed. And a little tool case here. Screwdriver. Looks like I've taken out my screws because I've got those in a bin. Pardon my big head. Now, if you're building computers and you're using a lot of the high-end expensive parts, do consider a static ring, bracelet, those kind of things. For this example, being an older system, I'm not going to be terribly too concerned about the static electricity at the moment. I just want to get everything basically seated so that I can work with it. And for testing purposes, I'll just throw a couple screws in here on the power supply. And that will be enough to keep her from moving around on us. I may have the screws I need, or I may not. We'll have to see. We do have another supply of screws somewhere. Let's say no concerns. Let's see, there's another hole right there. All right, so that's enough to hold that in place. All right, so now I think what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and install the RAM because it's just super easy to get to right now. Pardon me if I'm sniffling. This dust is kind of kicking up. It'll kind of throw your allergies for a loop if you have them. Snap in one side, snap in the other, nice and firm. So just for reference, and one of the reasons I bought this any individual piece of this, the power supply, the 2 sticks of RAM, either one of the graphics cards if they work just for basic test graphics cards, the keyboard, the mouse, any single one of those items on my behalf, fortunately, is enough to have covered the charge of what I paid for this system and all these parts combined. Like I said, the gentleman was frustrated, had a brand new machine. He didn't want to mess with this anymore. And here we are. So there's an opportunity for me to take his leftovers and play with them. And that's really what I'm doing. So RAM's in. Next I'm going to do, here's the main power supply. I'm not going to worry about cable management right now. I can definitely work on that later. I'm going to do the 4-pin CPU fan power right now, so this one has a bunch of, here's the CPU power. This is Molex. That may work that front display case. CPU apparently only needs the 4-pin, but I have an 8-pin. And if you'll notice on these, the 4-pin's separated, so that if you do have a system that only needs 4, you have the power on both sides. So if you just need 4, it'll give you that 4. And if you only need the 8 on some systems, it'll give you the 8 as well. But as always, make sure to check your book and guidelines and compatibility for these systems, depending on if you're getting a brand new power supply or building a new system. So there's PCI. All right, so that's be happy here. Oh, I just got to make sure to put it in right. All right, so I'm using half of that plug for the CPU, and that covers the fan. I'm sorry, power for the CPU, which is power supply for the CPU. And then the other most obvious is the 24-pin main power supply. And you've got a lip on that that connects it, that locks it down. So there's only one way to put that in properly. And it will go in there, snap down, and hold itself in place. All right, so come back down here with you. Now we know we don't have, well, it's very possible we do have output of graphics from the CPU. We don't know that yet, though. We do have DVI output and VGA output. But we're going to, since we've already had a system is built with a graphics card, we're going to go ahead and try to put all the pieces together and make that work. So next I'm going to do is go ahead and plug some power to this hard drive, just for the sake of if we can hear it spin up when the power comes on, we'll know that something is happening. So I'm going to go ahead and use the main on this. Make sure I get that. Had it right the first time, so plug that in. All right, that slides in. Go ahead and use one of these SATA cables. That way, if it does happen to try to read it when it powers up, it will try to do that. This system is a little backwards in the sense, oh, there's another fan up there. A lot of fans to clean up on this puppy if I do get her going. All right, so there's that. No contacts there, so I think that's going to be comfortable right there. Now, as far as whatever this is, like I said, I think it's the display in the front there. And it takes a Molex, and there's plenty of Molex on this board, so I'll go ahead and let her have it. That way, if there's some sign of life, that'll be there too. All right, so we got power to the CPU, we got power to the motherboard, we have power to the hard drive, and we have power, data to the hard drive to the CPU, to the motherboard. Sorry, it's kind of late in the day. I should have probably drank an energy drink or got a little bit more sleep, but I'm good. It appears all the buttons, everything are in order and plugged into the cabinet itself. That covers everything I believe we would need to basically kind of see if we're getting any response from the system whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the power supply is in the off position. And we'll use one of these triac cables. And for the sake of movie magic, I have power right here next to me. Someday I'll show you how to do that. Uh-oh. It's also my tripod. All right, so I'm going to try to be real quiet. I'm going to plug this in. And we're still off on the power supply, so we don't hear anything there, which is good. Another indicator of issues is an odor or smell. If anything gets warm and starts kind of getting toasty, that could be a thing. I don't hear or smell anything. Still off on the power supply. We're just making sure there's not a short or anything. I'm going to take this. I'm going to turn this PC around and push the button so that you can see it. Super careful with this hard drive. Pick this up over here. Just kind of slide this in right here. It appears to be backwards in the tray. They've got to just kind of slide this in. The power supply and the data cable on one side and the insertable is on the other. So now, just for the sake of seeing if there's some kind of power delivery system going to this motherboard, we will know. So right now I'm going to turn the power supply on. I'm looking at the motherboard. I think this motherboard's too old to have any kind of indicators on it. Let's get it down here a little bit. There's a perfect view. And I don't have any of the fans plugged in, but I think there's a couple that already are. CPU fan is plugged into the motherboard as it should be. There's another, not sure exactly what that's, probably a temperature guide. All right, so as far as I can tell, I've double checked and checked everything. Let's see if we get anything when we push the button. Ready for this? Anybody want to do me a countdown? 1, 2, 3. All right. Nothing. No spinning. No nothing. Which is exactly what we expected. So given that the member said he was having problems with it turning on altogether, then it's very possible that everything works except for the motherboard. So there's that switch is not responding. Now I can also, let me see. I will try it. It could be this switch. It absolutely could be. So let me see if these are all plugged in properly. And maybe a little extra lights. So USB, front panel jumpers. Jumper 1. All right, so the multi-port, there's a little bitty plug in here, and it's going to be power switch. Okay, so now I've disconnected what would be the button in the front. Pardon me for that. And I'm going to manually short the 2 pins that are the positive and negative for the power inside of here. We're going to see if that doesn't turn the motherboard on at the motherboard and not try to go through the switch. It's not unheard of that these switches up here will be bad, or some issue with this case could be an issue that would keep that from working. So listen, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of crossover here at the 2 jumpers. All right, and I am not getting anything at all. No response there. She's just not happy. Just making sure. All right, this is not a motherboard that has any kind of LEDs or anything on it, so it'd be hard to say if it sees signal power for any reason. There is a piezo buzzer on there that would beep if you effectively put power to it like it should, but that didn't take place. So we're really kind of stuck right now. Now in this case, like I said, I haven't lost any money on this project. I've spent an amount of money that I'm perfectly comfortable with in having the individual pieces. But as for the most part, we're going to have to dive into this a little deeper, individual parts. So let's see if we can, there I am. So as far as individual parts go, I can take the hard drive out and I can put in another system and try to play it. I can use the power supply. I've got a test system that I know works all the way around. I can disconnect the power from it, plug this one in, see if I can get that one to activate. It's really just a basic bare bones computer that's very much similar to this one, but I know that it works. It's a test system. I've got a couple other computers now that I could do the same with, and I could test individual pieces. So I'll probably take my DDR3 test computer and hook it up and use the individual pieces to see what works and what doesn't. That would be an option to have. Way to know what's working. So that will be the process that I would do next. I would take individual pieces, use my test system that I know works, eliminate what doesn't work, and I'm going to assume for the most part that this motherboard is probably just not functioning. RAM is pretty durable. The GPU, I'm sorry, the power supply, the PSU, the power supply unit is perfectly clean. All these cables there's not even any dust on them. And like I said, the gentleman showed me the box that it came in. And so I think he bought the power supply just to see if that was the issue with this. And once he got past the power supply unit, it wasn't worth knowing whether or not the motherboard was working or not. It was just beyond what he wanted to do, so he went ahead and bought a new system. So I still am going to have lots of fun. I've got 2 GPUs, graphics cards, to be able to test to see if those work. I've got a power supply that I'm pretty certain of. I've got a hard drive that's pretty clean and looks nice. It doesn't look damaged or anything, so I think that'll work. I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I think those will work. And there's a very good possibility that the CPU in here is fine. It's just having problems from the motherboard getting its power supply and getting activated turn on. So I'm about 90% certain that the motherboard is bad in this unit. So, and I don't even know what CPU that is. I know it's an Intel, and it's more than likely when I pull that off of there and find out what Intel CPU that is, I might just wind up putting it in file 13. I'm an AMD user. I like Radeon graphics. I like AMD CPUs all day long. But no complaints. I'm sure Intel's a great chip. I just have a preference. Don't hate me for it. Also got this DVR DVD writer. I mean, maybe in a blue moon, you might want to cut an old CD. I don't know. Doubt it. But that's what we know for now. So I think for right now, we've been on this for about half an hour. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. Stay tuned for part 2. I will make a new part 2 once I get everything set up. I'm not going to put you through that process. If I were making this a video, I would edit it for online. But because this is an online, because this was live and I just wanted to kind of hang out with you guys, I went ahead and streamed everything. But this will be on my channel. You can check out this video anytime. I will put together a setup and I'll show each one of these parts being tested. And I may do that as a video and record and edit it and break it down for you so I don't have to go through all the gory details. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. There'll be more content like this if this goes well. Like I said, it doesn't have to. I'm just doing this for fun. I don't expect anybody to watch it, but I can share it with my family and friends, and I've enjoyed it. And if anything I do or say or can do to help you with your system, um, I'm not an expert computer technician, but I've seen a lot of things. I've built lots of computers. Um, I say lots, 10 or 15 for sure. I usually have the ability to troubleshoot and get them working. Um, I have resources, call my son if I have trouble getting something to work as it should. And so that's an option. And so I've got a backup plan. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this power, turn that off because I don't want to touch anything with a live power because that may be the only thing that works. So be safe, happy PC computing, and never be afraid to get your hands dirty on an old pile of computer junk and just see what you can do with it because that's how you learn and you pick up opportunities to find out new things all the time. Thanks for watching. See you next time.